come to this little spot here. It's a really nice spot, one of my favourites. You can see we're by the river. This is the River Isis, or the Thames, as it's known elsewhere. And there's this bridge. This is an old railway bridge. I'm sure I made a video here before. I can't remember. Oh god, I made a video here. I can't remember which one it was. I made so many. This old railway bridge is like disused now, and it's sort of rusting, but it's a good shelter for in case it rains here, although it's actually a little bit sunny at the moment. And that graffiti there. Look at that. Peace and socialism. Oh my goodness. So that means that Riney Randall has been here. Riney, how did you do that? Interestingly, did you have to swim out there with a paint pot in one hand and the paintbrush clutched between your teeth and you're paddling with the other hand, or did you manage to get hold of a boat?
Hospital Porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Herpanwo TV. And I've come to this little spot here in Oxford. It's a lovely, like I say, it's a lovely quiet spot. You might actually hear a little bit of background noise in terms of the trains going past, because we're actually quite close to the railway, the new railway. The old railway used to run over this bridge. The new one runs a little bit away, just a few hundred yards away from here. So you hear trains every so often. But apart from that, it's a lovely quiet spot, one of my favourite spots for doing a quiet, contemplative video. And indeed, this is going to be one of those videos where I'd like a bit of peace and quiet, and also a little bit of harmony and niceness, because this is going to be a very unpleasant video. This is a video that I know I've been told I'm going to make because people have asked me about this so many times. People have asked me a lot about this particular subject. In fact, it's one of these sort of recurring subjects that comes up in the comments box, which, you know, if that happens often enough, I make a video about it, just to settle the matter once and for all, like the flat earth business. Just so the video is there and it's settled. And this is kind of like that. This is kind of a point of reference that I can use for that kind of thing. Oh, I hope this place ain't haunted. Did you see anything? Yeah, so again, people keep asking me a question, so now I'm going to answer the question. The question is, am I a MGTOW? Now, in answering that question, it means delving into issues that I feel uncomfortable thinking about and talking about. And I've said this on previous videos, because I have brought this subject up briefly on a couple of videos, like I did on my Joker video, which I've just done. It did sort of come up in conversation. It's in researching this film, researching this particular film I'm doing now, I found very unpleasant. I found it very depressing, very demoralising to examine as a train going past. You can still hear me, can't you? I think so, yeah. To examine this subject, to do the research necessary to make this film, it's been a disagreeable experience for me. It really has. It's opened up some old wounds that healed over, and indeed it's cut a few new ones in me. So what is MGTOW? MGTOW is how you pronounce. It's an acronym which for MGTOW, which stands for Men Going Their Own Way. There's actually a website called MGTOW.com. There's numerous YouTube channels, several other websites as well. And there's a Wikipedia page for it as well, which is as biased and unfair as Wikipedia tends to be. But it's basically a MGTOW, or MGTOWs, is a group of men, a movement of men who have decided to separate themselves from women, to essentially become men on their own, going their own way. In other words, not having anything to do with women. To eschew marriage and any kind of serious relationship. And they use the word sovereignty over and over again, personal sovereignty, male, masculine sovereignty and things like this. At the heart of... Oh, there's another one. That's a noisy train. I'll wait till he's gone. Yeah, it's been a bit of a grim... It's been a very grim process researching this video, it really has. Very grim indeed. And I mean, I've come here and I'm going to do it in this very nice place, a very, very place I really like, to try and uplift me. And you know what? It'd be good to get it over with. I'll be glad when I've got this damn video over with, because I don't like it. I don't like it so much. I understand it's in a sense my YouTube duty to provide it, because I know my viewers are curious about this subject. So I'm essentially giving the viewers what they want. But I don't enjoy making this video or even thinking about this subject at all. At the heart of the MGTOW mentality is a very dark vision of women and female nature. And they do tend to regard women collectively. I don't really see much in terms of individualising of women. They tend to say women as a collective group, who all have an inherent nature which is shared by them all, which is the foundation of their personality. Which is a remarkable thing to say about half the people in the entire world, but they believe they have justification for this kind of statement, and I'll be exploring this vision as time goes on. I should point out that the last few times people have asked me this question, Ben, are you a MGTOW? I've always replied no straight away, and I must admit I've had a very low opinion of the MGTOWs. I've always seen them as rather whiny and very negative, very nihilistic. I've got to tell you that since I last discussed this issue, my opinion has changed. And I'll explain what I mean. This is another reason I'm making this video, to essentially explain how I view the MGTOW movement differently now. But the MGTOW, of course, if you go to Wikipedia, you'll find out that the MGTOW movement is connected to the manosphere. The manosphere includes MRAs, men's rights activists, anti-feminists, of which I do include myself, certainly. And it overlaps with the alt-right, which I do not believe I'm alt-right. I do entertain a lot of. I know I agree with the alt-right on a lot of things, but I have some core beliefs of the alt-right are ones that I don't share. I've explained that in other videos, so I'm definitely not alt-right. But I suppose I am an MRA. I'm an MRA, yeah. Although I believe that the whole issue connected with feminism is connected to is a bigger picture. You see, there's a bigger picture associated with that, which delves into, well, there's some people walking past one moment. Because that's what I think I like about this place. It's warm. You know, on a summer's day you can stay cool, and when it's raining you've got some shelter. And so I was just making a bit of small talk there because some people were going past, some guys with fishing rods, you know, so we were fishing. I don't want to be overheard when I'm making this thing. You know, I really don't want to be overheard. Yeah, so now, according to MGTOW.com, there have always been MGTOWs. MGTOWs have always been there, and they quote a lot of ancient philosophers about this sort of thing. They claim that this is crazy. They claim Nikola Tesla was a MGTOW. No, he wasn't. They called him a MGTOW basically because he was celibate his whole life. He never had any relationships with women. That doesn't make you a MGTOW. There's all kinds of different celibates. There are involuntary celibates, who I'll talk about in a minute. In the case of Nikola Tesla, he had a specific reason why he didn't have a relationship with women. He suffered from a condition that we would today call obsessive-compulsive disorder. It hadn't been isolated in his lifetime, so he wasn't ever diagnosed with it. But if you look at his behaviour and the way people describe the way he acted, there's no doubt he had OCD. For example, he hated when he was around people, he was scared of catching germs from them. If he was sitting at a table with people, he'd try and edge as far away from everyone else as he could. Shaking hands with someone, he'd have to go wash his hands. He hated shaking hands because he was scared he was going to catch something from them. And of course, someone in that position, I mean, sex is impossible. It's out of the question. It's completely and utterly. So he was not a MGTOW. He had OCD, which led to him exhibiting certain kinds of behaviour which led people to believe he was a MGTOW. He's not. Oh, Jesus was a MGTOW. It's really funny because if you go to MGTOW.com, they claim that Jesus was a MGTOW. So it's very old, this bridge, as you can see. So if someone's just, there's a jogger going past. I'm not completely alone here, unfortunately. And here comes a train. That's a quiet one. The MGTOW.com claimed that Jesus was a MGTOW. Jesus was the Son of God. Anyway, according to according to Wilson, Bajan and Lee, the Rennes-le-Château mystery, Jesus wasn't a MGTOW. He was married to Mary Magdalene. They had a kid. Makes a lot of sense. The Rennes-le-Château mystery is actually quite valid. I won't go into that right now. But anyway, it's also 1990s anyway, isn't it? Now the MGTOW movement has been accused of misogyny. Well, almost anyone now is accused of misogyny. I mean, misogyny, it's sort of like, the accusation of misogyny, it's like racism, it's just tossed around like sweeties. The Southern Poverty Law Centre has designated the MGTOWs a hate group. Various anti-fascist organisations, Hope Not Hate, various other Antifas, Unite Against Fascism, people like that, they've designated MGTOW and other areas of the men's rights movement as hate organisations and hate groups. It's very easy to slip into that kind of mentality now. Now, to be honest, the actions of some people online are not helping. This is slightly aside here, but I was watching a BBC documentary about the men's rights movement. It was as biased as, it wasn't that bad. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. Mind you, my expectations of the BBC can never be undercut. However, it was pretty lousy, but it explored the men's rights movement. And it's called Men at War. Oh, it's Extreme UK, Men at War, yeah. That was, if you want to look it up on YouTube, it's on YouTube. But there was an interview with Laurie Penny, who of course has been trolled really badly. And I mean, other people as well. I've already talked in my Skeptic video, I talked about Rebecca Watson. Now, these are feminists who like outspoken feminists, and they've been trolled brutally and mercilessly. I mean, as I explained, Rebecca Watson has had all kinds of horrible abuse hurled at her. She's death threats, rape threats, threats to torture and mutilate her, threats to plant a bomb in her house, threats to members of her family. Laurie Penny has had similar things. Now, it's a well-known fact. There's actually been experiments done about this, right? If you put people through, if someone has a belief and you subject them to a lot of abuse. I mean, this was actually in David Aronovich's book, Party Animals. Of all people, David Aronovich talks about this. If you subject people to like ordeals like this, as a result of their beliefs will become more entrenched. They would double down. It's an absolute fact. So all these people who abuse people in the MRM who abuse feminists like that, prominent feminists, are doing is essentially it's confirming their ideals. You people are behaving exactly how feminists imagine evil white men behave, and if you're going to do that, you're confirming their beliefs. And so, as much as I oppose what Rebecca Watson and Laurie Penny stand for, I can't help feeling sympathy for them, especially as someone who's been trolled myself, and I've had similar things said about me. Bear in mind that I am a big, ugly ex-hospital porter, whereas Laurie Penny is like this really small little woman, and Rebecca Watson's a woman who lives on her own, so it's a slightly different perspective, in vastly different perspective there. But I sympathise with them. So, again, as I said in my Joker video, the bottom line has to be kindness. In fact, David Aronovich actually used that word. He said, you need to be kind to people. If you're going to if you know some feminists and you're going to deprogram her, if you start calling her names and threatening her with hell on earth, is she more or less likely to change her mind? Think about it. Right, I'm moving on. Back, as Ronnie Corbett used to say, on with the joke. I think there's a distinct issue with MGTOW, which may be slightly different to most of the rest of the manosphere, and that is even though they are anti-feminists and they actually go on and on about feminism. In fact, I've been watching some MGTOW channels. One of these channels which I found, like I said, I found it. For me, it's been a very upsetting process watching these videos to research this film. But I've been watching YouTube channels such as The Happy Humble Hermit, who's neither happy nor humble. And just checking the time. I've finished work actually. This is why I'm dressed like this. Just checking the time. And one with an amazing name, Turd Flinging Monkey. He's been banned from YouTube. He's on BitChute now. But even though they are indeed, MGTOWs are indeed very opposed to feminism, and they make a lot of criticisms of feminism, which I share. They go beyond that. They say that the problem is not just feminism; it's inherent female nature. And again, they say basically a natural core element of female personality is the problem. Now, this is remarkably similar to feminists. Now, I'm going to make a lot of comparisons between MGTOWs and feminists here, and I think there are real comparisons. They're almost like parallel mirror opposites of each other. Feminists say the same thing about men. They say there are core elements of male nature, which are the problems. Toxic masculinity is the term they use. And sometimes they blame this on social pressures and social forces. Some feminists, some radical feminists say no, it's an inherent part of the biological nature of men, which is exactly what the MGTOW say about women. The reason this issue has come up in my life, this issue has become prominent in my life over the last 3 years, is because of how my life has changed over the last 3 years. Now, as I have stated before, I have been in a relationship. I mean, you know that, don't you? I mean, I've talked about this before. Because you knew, I think she even appeared in a couple of videos. She even appears Sue Ostain. I was in a relationship with a woman who's known online as Sue Ostain. That's not her real name. That's just her internet name. But her name is Susan. That's her real name. She has a surname though, which I'm not going to reveal. Sue and I were a couple for 8 years, and I think one of the reasons I've been looking into this whole issue that is because of my own life. It's been a massive jolt for me what happened, because after 8 years together, when we were in love, very much in love, she fell out of love with me. Now that can happen, people do fall out of love, but usually, sorry, someone's coming again. So usually, you sometimes sit under here and think trains are going to come over, but of course no train ever comes, because it is a disused railway bridge, and that's what's fascinating about it. You see, just changing the subject when other people come past, so they don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So usually, as I say, if you're with someone and it starts to go wrong, you start to lose the spark, you usually get at least a few months' notice. You can tell something's not wrong. You just tell something's not right. You just feel there's something wrong, something's missing, something's going wrong with the relationship. You may not know the cause. It may not have a specific cause. People do fall out of love. I know that. Now, I'm not going to tell the full story about what happened between me and Sue, about how we split up. I'm not going to tell that full story. I know some of you are dying to hear it. Gossip mongers like Paul Armstrong, I just say, oh, come on, let's hear the full Sue Ostain story. Come on, let's hear it. Come on, Ben. I can't wait to hear the whole thing. Well, you're not going to. Go and read News of the World, or whatever sleaze rag you prefer, Paul, because I'm not going to tell you the whole story. I'm never going to tell the whole story publicly, because it wouldn't be fair. Firstly, it's private. It's something that I don't really particularly want to talk privately about. I know I've just told some people I've talked to about this privately, and some of you know the full story. Some of you know the full story because you know Sue. Some people watching this actually know Sue are staying yourselves. I'm not going to tell the full story. I think it would, not only is it private for me, it would be unfair of me to tell the full story, because it would be unfair on Sue, because you wouldn't be hearing her side of the story. And I always say, listen to both sides of the story, don't I? I'm always an advocate for that. And she does not have the kind of platform to project her own position as I do. In other words, she's not as famous as I am. So that it would be unfair of me to tell the full story of what happened. But I'll give you a rundown of it. I'll give you the outline. Sue did fall out of love with me, but it happened very suddenly. I mean, I was on, you know, I'm not a child, I'm not a teenager, I know what to look out for in relationships. I was aware that a relationship is a tenuous and precarious thing. And I was I made a lot of effort. I never took our relationship for granted between myself and Sue. I went out of my way, actually, to make it as interesting and fun as possible for her, to avoid boredom. I know that it was very important to avoid boredom. I was also on the lookout, I was also looking out for signs from her that things were wrong and that something wasn't right. And indeed, we used to talk about things which in fact, we were continuously talking about her feelings. I mean, that kind of, maybe excessively so. Some people have said maybe I was a bit too giving in that relationship, and she wasn't giving enough. I don't know if that's fair or not. All I know is I was very much in love with her. I adored her. I never cheated on her, you know, not in 8 years. And despite the fact I had opportunities to. I mean, you know what it's like. I mean, some of you may already be aware of this, but you go to conferences, you meet people, you know, you go to exopolitics conferences, UFO conferences and places like that, conspiracy conferences. Women go there, and if you're a speaker, for example, you have some kind of prestige. You're like the rock star of the show. And indeed, there are women there who have a desire to see a large cigar-shaped object. And and that has happened to me. I've been given the green light, so to speak, by a couple of women at conferences, more than once, and I didn't do it. I didn't do it out of a sense of loyalty, because I was in love. I didn't have to. I could have spent the night with these women, and Sue would never have known about it. There's no way she could have ever found out. But I didn't do it out of a sense of loyalty. Yet I don't believe she cheated on me either, but I don't want to go into too much detail here, but she met someone else. She met someone else on the internet. And this literally happened, this whole thing happened within 3 weeks. It was, like I said, there was no warning to this. She met someone on the internet and fell for him, fell head over heels for him. And suddenly, after 8 years of a loving relationship, I'm just someone who's in the way. And she had to get me out of the way. And she did. Now, I must say, what happened was, what I think was remarkable about this, and sad, but in a way satisfying, in my kind of vengeful state of mind, which I was in at the time, I found I got satisfaction from this. The man she actually traded me in for was someone I would consider inferior to myself. You're going to hear lots of words in this particular video, words like hypergamy, monkey branching, sexual market value. I'm going to use a lot of this kind of terminology, and I'll explain exactly what this terminology means. However, the man she chose me for, I think, was lower in status than myself. And indeed, she left me to ride the carousel. In other words, riding the carousel is another MGTOW term, which I will explain to you shortly. And you'll understand exactly what I mean by riding the carousel. She just got 2 weeks on the carousel. Literally within 2 weeks of her, there's a big long train going past, a freight train. within 2 weeks of our relationship ending, her relationship, or if you can call it that, with this inferior man fell apart. It was an absolute disaster for her. It was a complete and utter disaster. He was not who he said he was. He fooled her, he conned her, and she was left penniless and destitute. Literally, it was a money issue. He took her money, basically, all of it. Now, I don't want to go into any more details than that, but because I felt I was incredibly hurt by her leaving me, and when I found out what happened, I found out a few months later, I rubbed my hands with glee and I said, good, serve her right. And then I felt guilty for feeling like that. I felt that was nasty, it was vindictive. But I mean, maybe it's just a natural response. Maybe it's just a natural response to that. She'd basically left me for a con man. She'd fallen under the spell of a con man and abandoned the man she'd been with for 8 years, who loved her, and lost everything within a couple of weeks because this man lured her into a trap. And I just felt, at first I felt a sense of, I felt incredibly hurt, of course, when she split up with me. When I found out why I felt incredibly hurt, I felt a sense of satisfaction that she had, in a sense, revenge. Who needs revenge when she's willing to punish herself like this? But I felt a sense of glee, as you would, I think, from revenge. You got that glow of satisfaction that you would get from revenge. But then I felt guilty for feeling that way. But I couldn't help it. And I remember thinking to myself, right, because when I was, of course, a lot of young guys get this experience. You meet an older woman, sometimes a teacher at school, sometimes a matriarch in the workplace, or a senior professor at university or something, or maybe even an older relative, who will say something like, "Oh, don't worry, you're on your own now, but there's a lovely girl out there waiting for you, a beautiful girl who one day you will meet and you will settle down with, and you'll fall in love and you'll be happy. I promise you, I guarantee it." Now, of course, that's a filthy fucking lie, isn't it? It really is. And that's what I came to realise. It's not a guarantee. She might be right, and I don't blame these women, because I mean this happened to me. Obviously, these women. I'm not going to say how old I am, but I'm not old. I'm not an old guy, but I'm not like a little kid anymore. I'm not a teenager. And the women who used to say that to me were older, much older, and I think they probably died by now. And they've gone to their grave believing they were giving me good advice. And indeed, perhaps in the ethos of their generation, they would be right when they're referring to basically to their own youth. But of course, times have changed. Another bloke I like watching on YouTube is Coach Red Pill. Now, I don't like everything he says. I disagree with a lot of what he says. But some of his videos are very good. He did a really, really good one called Incels Are All Right. And it brought tears to my eyes. It made me cry. I mean, I've not cried since I watched over a movie, since I watched The Colour Purple. But this did make me cry. The truth of the matter is, times have changed, and it's not an inherent nature of it's not inherent female nature, because a lot of these women who give this advice, they're referring to their own youth and how things were different when they were young women, and the advice they gave back then would have been sound. But now, of course, it's not true, and it's not inherent nature of it's not inherent female nature. It's feminism. It's cultural Marxism. It's the New World Order. It's the mind control operation intended to turn this world into an orbiting prison camp, and the only humans, quote unquote, left on it will be deformed monsters. Do you know what I'm going to have to? I won't be able to do the whole film here. I'm going to have to. Oh dear. I think I'm going to have to. I won't be able to finish it here. I might have to do the rest of it somewhere else. Oh, hang on. And I never really believed that, you see, because I did find the woman of my dreams. I did find the love of my life. And that was Sue Mustaine. So, in a sense, those old ladies I met when I was a kid, they proved me right. They proved themselves right in that sense. It's not a complete lie. The guarantee part is a lie. Because not everyone is as lucky as me to find someone like Sue are staying. I've got no regrets about anything that happened because we had 8 wonderful years together. I'd never go back to her. I never want to see her again. And I would actually avoid contact with her. Luckily, she lives like in Nottingham. I live in Oxford, so it's unlikely we're going to bump into each other accidentally. That's a good thing about it. That's a good thing about a long-distance relationship. If it breaks up, you can go back to your hometown. You know it's highly unlikely you're going to bump into the other person accidentally. But I remember feeling at the end of this, I said, well, look, if that's the love of my life, and it can end if she will throw it away for nothing so quickly and so easily, she'll sell me off at such a low price, then maybe the MGTOWs have a point. Maybe the MGTOWs do have a point. And of course, in a sense, like in terms of the dating game, I mean, I've not done any formal dating or gone on. I have actually had a few dates with somebody who I won't name, but it's and I had quite recently, but it's not going very well. This person is ghosting me now. That's the word term. My daughter told me that. Ghosting. Ghosting is when you go on a date with someone and you just ignore them afterwards, rather than just saying, you know, rather than making excuses, you just refuse to speak to them. So I was ghosted by this person. Then we went on a second date. Then we went on a third date. And now she's ghosting me again. But my daughter had to tell me what that meant. It's a word term I never used to use. But that's anyway. Because dating is difficult if you're kind of like me, because you know I am part. I suppose I am shut off from society in a way, and I'll tell you what I mean. Like I could probably, if I wanted to, and if I made the effort, I could get myself a date. I could go out on a town, I could meet some bird, and we could arrange to meet up, and we'd probably go for a drink or for a meal or something, and we'd get on all right. I mean, I can sort of like. I'm not completely repulsive. I can attract women when I put in the effort. But we were sitting there talking. Of course, you know what you talk about on dates. You know, what's your favourite movie, where you went on a holiday, and things like that. And we'd be having a great time. But then at some point, that moment would arrive. The moment that I can't avoid, and I'd be dreading the whole evening. I'd have to go there. Eventually, that moment would come about where I'd have to say, look, okay, we've paraphrasing now. Look, okay. Susie, or whatever her name is, listen, Susie, we've had a good evening here, haven't we? We've talked about all the usual things, but now I'm going to have to explain to you about the reptilian overlords and the underground bases and the flying saucers and things like that. And see, oh, right, that's nice, Ben. Oh goodness, is that a time? I think I better be going. Lovely meeting you. I'll call you. You know. And she does a big bolt towards the door. So that is a problem. Okay, you know, I have certain ideas, and of course, what I'm doing, making these videos, of course, is a big part of my life. In fact, it's the principal part of my life. It's what I do virtually non-stop. And another thing the MGTOWs have a point is when you don't have a relationship, you can put a lot more energy into other things. And indeed, I do wonder, you know, if Sue and I hadn't split up in 2016, and I wrote the book Roswell Rising before we split up, but I do wonder, like, if we stayed together, would I have actually finished Roswell Redeemed and Roswell Revealed by December 2018, which is when I finished the trilogy. That's right. But anyway, I started looking into MGTOW culture, and I started wondering if they had a point. Now I should point out, actually, you know, that I was just saying about how difficult it is to date because you know, you dating normal women who are into normal things, and they suddenly realise you're what most people regard as a nutter. Of course, there are women who are also fellow nutters, aren't there? Plenty of them. I mean, I just mentioned I met them at conferences, and the only reason I didn't shag them was because of loyalty to my partner. Loyalty is an important thing. Like the guys who built the bridge must have been very, very clever, because they used rivets instead of welding. Rivets was the principal mean that steel construction was done in those days. You know, ships like the Titanic were riveted and things like that. And you can see the wonderful rivets you see on this structure. Sorry, I was changing the subject again because someone was walking past. If you hear me do that, it's because someone walks past. All right. Okay, where was I? Yeah. as I said, there were women who were fellow nutters, aren't they? There were women who were into UFO, paranormal, conspiracy stuff. I mean, they are fewer in number than the men. Men outnumber women in this field. And indeed, I mean, if you watch my 2018 UFO Truth magazine video, I go into reasons why I don't think that's a problem and it's something we shouldn't try to change. I mean, I do, you see, because I said I met women at conferences, and the only reason I didn't shag them was because I was in a relationship. So that is actually, sorry to put it so crudely, but that's the truth of the matter. I haven't since, though. I mean, I must say that I actually haven't since, and there's, I don't know why that is. But, okay, again, like I said, I've been single now for 3 years. But anyway, I did get talking to this woman online. I met up with a woman online, and we started talking to each other. Basically, because she posted a picture, and she had a Russell alien as well. And I made a joke about it. We ended up PMing each other, and it turns out that she's really interested in UFOs and things that I'm interested in. And she's a nice looking lady. She's very pretty, and I think she liked me as well. Thinks I'm some kind of attractive, and we're obviously quite compatible in that respect, and we're both interested in the same subject. But then, you know, it turns out she lives in North Wales. I mean, that's where are we going to go? Where are we going to meet for dates? Birmingham? Again, it's the long distance element is a problem, not least because we've got families. Both of us have families. She's got kids. She's a grandmother, actually. She's got some grandchildren. I've got my daughter, who's 24, and she's an adult, but she still wants me around. So, I mean, the obvious solution to a long distance relationship is, if it works out, one of you moves to the other's home, or you move somewhere else. And ironically, Sue and I were actually discussing that just before we split up. But, you know, it's not possible when you have, like, families all the time to just up and move out for somebody else. So that's the problem. So you can meet up with people who are kindred spirits, but they may be out of reach. That's another problem. They may be out of reach. So that's another problem. Oh God, it's uncomfortable making this film to go into such personal stuff, you know, like deep personal stuff. But it's painful and it's unpleasant, like I said. But I can't really address the MGTOW issue without addressing my own feelings. Now, the MGTOWs have a number of, they have an entire lexicon of their own terminology, and if you're going to understand them, you actually need to learn their terminology, because they'll use it in the middle of videos and you'll wonder what the hell they're talking about. One of them is red pill rage. I've made a list of various things which I'll explain. Red pill rage is the feeling you get when you wake up to the MGTOW reality. That is, women are evil. You're never going to find the woman of your dreams. You're always going to be either a single man or a man trapped in a very unpleasant relationship where you get abused. That's not what I believe. I don't believe that personally, but that's how the MGTOW see it. And when you wake up to that, you go through what's called red pill rage, by basically a feeling of horrific, angry nihilism at the way things are. Now, there's another thing called NAWALT versus AWALT. NAWALT is N-A-W-A-L-T. It's an acronym. It stands for Not All Women Are Like That. And it's a belief, literally, as you said, not all, that when you refer to female nature that MGTOWs don't like, it's hashtag not all women. There are some women who are exceptions to that. And those who are a bit cynical towards that call men who believe in NAWALT are basically looking for a unicorn. They say, have you found your unicorn yet? A unicorn is a woman who is different, who is the exception to the rule, to the MGTOW rule. Who is the exception, and they call it a unicorn because, of course, a unicorn is a very rare thing. It's a very rare thing. But the bridge you see, we're seeing here, you don't see many of these bridges nowadays. It's a 19th century steel construction, riveted, not welded, which is quite unusual. And of course, it lasted a long time. And of course, it's actually in quite good condition for a building of this, for construction of this age, which, of course, is never mind. So he's gone now. Where was I? Yeah, the unicorn is is your dream woman, the woman of your dream, the love of your life. And unicorns, of course, don't exist. That's why it's only the disbelievers in NAWALT who call them unicorns. They're very rare if they exist at all, and then they probably don't. Now the opposite of NAWALT is AWALT. Of course, you remove the not. AWALT stands for all women are like that, and it's AWALT who chastise the NAWALTs and say things, found your unicorn yet then? Nah, unicorns don't exist. Now another term is simp, S-I-M-P. Now I wonder where that came from, because I've heard the term simp before. And fans of Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer, will know what a simp is. A simp is actually a genetically engineered primate, which is specifically bred in the future world of Arthur C. Clarke. A genetically engineered primate specifically designed to do simple tasks. It's a subhuman, highly intelligent but still subhuman ape, basically. It's short for super chimp, and they're very intelligent. You can speak to them, they can understand simple language, and they can do simple things, but they are not bright enough to do anything like join a trade union or demand higher wages and things like that. So that's why they use them. And of course, it's like the Epsilons from Brave New World. And of course, that's basically what the New World Order want all of us to be. I think their plan is to have a world with 500 million simps in it. But that's going off topic. Now let's just go back to the bridge. Remarkable, amazing construction. As I say, it's 19th century, and the rivets you see behind you are virtually unique in this day and age. It's something you just do not get. Everything now is welded. You don't have wrought iron. It just doesn't happen anymore. You have steel. You have cast steel. Cast iron still is used for things such as weights, rollers, bollards, things which don't need to be moved around, and they don't need a lot of tensile strength. But apart from that, you will not see construction like this in this world, and it's. Sorry, they're gone now. So yes, simp. Now, the term simp for MGTOWs is different. It actually stands for something. I won't actually say what it stands for because it's pretty obscene, and I don't want to get too disgusted. You can look it up if you want to know what it stands for. But SIMP stands for something. It's got nothing to do with Arthur C. Clarke. And there's also you'll also hear. This is throughout the manosphere and even beyond it. People like the people who built this bridge, who are remarkable people. Guy on a bike. The bikes go quicker, luckily, so I don't have to ramble on about nothing for so long. That is where you hear men addressed by letters of the Greek script. Now, this is something again which. You'll hear outside the manosphere. For example, you'll get alpha males. Now the alpha males, and indeed these terms are used in biology to describe groups of various animals. The alpha male is like the most powerful and dominant member of the pack. The beta, which is like the one below, they're the sort of subservient ones, the less important ones, the ones with less status. And there's even ones such as gamma, omega. You'll hear terms like that to refer to the very, very low status people. There's even things like the omega male is someone who is basically disgusting, untouchable, and you even have things such as omega rage. They always think when these guys go crazy with a gun it's because they can't get a date and things like that. And they're like omega males who are rebelling. Now the term carousel, that's another one, a carousel. I referred to that before because I said that Sue Stain had basically abandoned me to ride the carousel. Again, this is a bit obscene. I will tell you what it means. It refers to cock carousel is the whole term, and it's a woman on the cock carousel means that she is being very promiscuous, and you'll often hear that she abandons her there's lots of stories about women who abandon their husbands who've been with them for ages, years and years and years, and then they become very promiscuous, and they take him to the courts, and they get all his money in divorce courts and things like that, and then just go around sleeping around because it's fun. I think that is what Sue was doing to me, and it's sad because the man, I don't know if it's worse or better. It would be worse or better if she'd actually chosen someone for example, she left me for some rich charmer with a big fast car. And of course I always used to be worried she might do that one day. In fact, I think every man is worried that one day their partner will meet someone of a higher status, conventional status, who will seduce them and lure them away from you. And I don't believe that. I mean, there are, you see, the MGTOWs, I'll come into this at the end, but the MGTOWs believe basically that women are essentially hyper-materialistic children. They have the mind of, one guy even says, Happy Humble Hermit, he says, you're dealing with the mind of a child, and all they care about is materialism, and they just, really, they're only interested in men for that reason. And to be honest, even Stefan Molyneux has this very dark, cynical attitude. He really, really does. There's the bad boys. Now, a bad boy or a Chad, now these are the words. Now, bad boy is a Chad, is an alpha male. He's the one with all the status who gets all the girls, things like that. A Stacey is a high status woman who is drawn to Chads. You remember the guy in Canada who drove his car into a crowd of people? He said, "I'm going for all the Chads and the Staceys." You know. So the Chads are the alpha males. The Staceys are the guys who get into relationships with the alpha males. Monkey branching, hypergamy. Now, this refers to what I was just saying, that women will, according to the MGTOWs, if a woman is in a relationship with a man, she's always got one eye on the door to see if someone better walks past. And indeed, there may be some women like that. There's certainly lots of men like that, who really profess love for another person, but they are still willing to jump ship if necessary, if a better offer comes along. Interesting, it's another of these complaints that MGTOWs have of women that is shared by feminists against men. I mean, there's almost nothing a MGTOW will say about women that feminists will not say about inherent male nature. A lot of feminists are women who are low status. I mean, if you look at them, feminists, you may have noticed, feminists tend to have, I wouldn't say, I mean, for me, in my view, good looks, attractiveness is a subjective thing. But but I still think that this bridge will probably be around decades probably after most of the constructions in the modern world are gone. Most of the welded, the cast steel structures, even titanium structures, probably will not last as long as this bridge. It's really a remarkable piece of work. I suspect that it'll be maybe several centuries, something like that. So yes, good.
Next to me, I wouldn't sit underneath it myself.
I think I'm safe enough. You too. Bye bye. So yeah, it's a nice. You can imagine trains going over here. It was built to take the weight of locomotives, steam locomotives in those days, no diesel, which were much bigger and heavier than modern trains. And I've just gone right. Where was I? Yes. Yeah, I mean, as I say, the feminists make complaints about men, and feminists, you look at them, they do tend. I'm saying attractiveness is a subjective thing in my view. I mean, there's a lot of women I find attractive who, I won't name them, but some people already know, but they're not the sort of women you'd think most guys would be drawn to. But I think they're hot, bloody hot. You know, women who are older, women who are somewhat overweight. I think, are extremely alluring. But so attractiveness to me is subjective mostly. However, there is such a thing as conventional attractiveness, classic good looks. And you'll find that feminists tend to be women without those classic good looks. And MGTOWs are often men without those classic good looks, or without the classic the things that make a man attractive, which includes status, wealth, things like that. So the MGTOWs, the MGTOWs and the feminists are so similar. The complaints they make about the opposite sex, you can almost transcribe word for word, replacing men with women. In both cases, they're almost interchangeable. Right, a friend zone. Now, a friend zone is not. This is a term that exists not just in the manosphere. It exists outside. A friend zone, of course, is indeed, women complain about this too, as well as men. They complain that someone that they have a crush, they have someone they like, and they're in the friend zone, which means that this man or woman has put them in a place where they like them and they want to spend time with them, but they don't want a relationship. And it's seen as objectionable. It's seen as somehow wrong, immoral, that they do this. And some people can get frustrated with this and they get angry and they say, oh, she's put me in the friend zone, he's put me in the friend zone, he's not interested, you know, and you feel like they've done something wrong by doing that. They've committed some kind of grievance by doing that. The friend zone is where you put, and indeed, I think most people have done this. I've had to do this at some point, where someone is obviously attracted to you, but I'm like thinking, but I'm not attracted to her, and I just have, but I don't want to hurt her feelings, and I don't want to reject her and just say, go away. So what can you do apart from say, well, let's be friends? There's nothing immoral about that. Women have done that to me too, and women I fancy, and I don't complain. I understand they've done nothing wrong. Divorce rape. Now, divorce rape is where it's actually a legal issue. It's to do with, and there's moves to actually reform alimony law. Divorce rape is where a woman will marry a man, take him to court, and just get all his money. And there are women willing to do that. There are women willing to marry a man purely for that reason and no other. They literally just want, they go out, marry someone, take them to court. There's even like forums where women talk about this. They talk about how to lure a man in, pretend you love him, just take his money. And indeed, this is the radical feminists are all in favour of this. They see it as reparations. They see it as reparations of wealth taken from them by the evil white man, etc., etc. It's very culturally Marxist. But there are moves now. I mean, it's not such a problem in Britain, actually. It's the big problem in many countries. I think Canada and the United States, it's extremely bad, where more than 90% of alimony payments are from men to women. So basically a woman divorces, she just starts demanding money from him. I mean, the classic case is the Hollywood star who marries some woman you've never heard of. A little bit later you find she's taken him to, she wants to divorce him, and she wants $3 of his $6 billion for doing nothing except marrying him and being married to him for a couple of years. Yes, it's unfair. It's what MGTOW's called divorce rape. It is unfair. It's not such a problem in Britain because our laws are different. But yeah, it needs reforming. There are moves to reform alimony law in the United States. There are lawyers campaigning for that. And indeed, the advice, I mean, one of the things anyone can do in any country, is to get a prenuptial agreement. That means that rather, you know, it's to be honest, it's a rather seedy, sordid thing to go into when you're actually in love and plan to get married. To have an agreement, have a prenuptial arrangement. Sometimes it's just shortened to prenup. You just get a prenup, you know. And Michael Douglas very famously did this when he got married to Catherine Zeta-Jones. There was lots of comic sketches about it. So that it's all sorted out beforehand. You know who owns what, who's entitled to what, should the relationship end. Thing is, because I was the thing about being a hospital porter is that I was in an environment where I mostly, in terms of the hospital generally, it was mostly women. The largest pool of operatives were the nursing, and nurses are, of course, about 80 to 85% women. However, I worked within a service, within a department, within a facility, which was 80 to 90% men. More than that, probably 90 to 95% men. Hospital portering. Portering is done mostly by men because it is a unglamorous, low-paid, dirty job. Let's face it. Obviously, I have different views on that, but conventionally speaking, that's what it is. And of course, so, all right. Just a bike, it's all right. Interestingly, the feminists always complain there's not enough female CEOs and it's dominated by men, but you could say the same for hospital portering. The feminists don't actually complain about men doing these jobs. Same with coal mining or fighting in war and things like that. You know, let the men get on with that. So I've heard, because of this situation, I used to get an insight into what women used to say when they were on their own together, and you know, despite my criticisms of the MGTOW movement, it is sometimes quite bleak. I heard women say, quite literally, if he doesn't marry me by this time next year, I'm going manhunting. I told him, I want a ring on my finger, otherwise I'm going manhunting. Meaning she's basically blackmailing her partner into marrying her. I've also heard one woman say, she was actually pregnant, having a baby, and she was talking about a famous movie star. She said, "Oh God, if he gave me the nod, I would dump Alan. That's her husband. I would dump him I'd drop him like a hot potato." She's saying she's basically expressing the fact that she believes in hypergamy, that she would do that. You know, and we were talking about the famous film. It's a very anti-MGTOW film actually called Indecent Proposal, about the man the millionaire who pays a man $1 million to sleep with his wife. It's a good movie actually, but she said, "Can't believe it! Can't believe she left that millionaire and went back to her husband." God, you know, and I think that there is something horrifically mercenary about that attitude, and there's no doubt that some women have that attitude. Some women feel that way, and they think those thoughts. And it is depressing. It is depressing when I hear that. Thank goodness, you know, God, how do the male nurses cope? I mean, they must die of soy poisoning or something. Oh, good grief. At least I was a porter. At least I was in a manly profession. Good grief. At least I had that refuge. I could go back to the lodge. Oh, God. That bridge keeps making funny noises. And there's game. Now, game is a word which refers to seduction techniques, and indeed there's pick-up artists. I'll go into pick-up artists in a minute, but game is basically the techniques used to seduce people, you know, chat up lines, things like that. And there's game denialism. Game denialism is the belief that it is the belief that you know, you don't need game to get a girl, to get a partner. Now, I happen to believe that's true, so in a sense I am a game denialist. Indeed, I've never really been a game person. I've never been a PUA. I actually find PUA a bit distasteful. I'll come on to that in a minute. And so I've never been someone for game. Of course I do, if I'm flirting with a woman, it'll be fairly just normal. I won't be using any kind of techniques. I'll just be talking to her in a friendly manner. That's what I do. You'll notice that women tend to do that when they're flirting with men. I mean, that's what I've noticed when they flirt with me, which does happen, believe it or not, occasionally. So I'm not, but so game denialism is the sense that it's used in the same term as climate change denialism. In other words, you believe in something that's, from their point of view, you disbelieve in something that's obviously true. From the point of view of the denialist, we're disbelieving in something that may very well and probably is not true. Right, sexual market value. Again, sexual market value. Stefan Molyneux has some very MGTOW-esque views on this sort of thing. I must say, Molyneux he's not a game guy or anything like that. He's not a MGTOW. He's married. He's got a little daughter, but he has very conventional attitudes in these terms in the MGTOW field. He uses the 10 to 1 scale about how attractive you are. You know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how attractive you are. He asks almost every one of his guests this. And of course, I personally believe that attractiveness is 80%. It is 80% subjective. It really is. There are people with conventional good looks. There's people who don't. There are people with it. There are women who are conventionally attractive. I know who I'm not drawn to at all. I was actually standing up for one of them when some trolls were attacking her, and I was accused of white knighting her, and I wasn't. I'll explain what white knighting means in a minute. I wasn't white knighting. I'm not attracted to her. I just thought it was horrible she's been treated like this by these trolls. There's other women, like I said, who are, as I said, they've hit the wall. That's another term that MGTOWs use. They're over the wall. They are conventionally unattractive, but as I said, they're quite elderly. They're not slim. They're overweight. I look at them and think they're sex on legs. So attractiveness is subjective, in my view. I'm not mentioning any names. You could probably think of a couple. White knight. We come on to the white knight. A white knight is a beta male or beneath, a beta or omega male, who defends who defends Stacys, that is, high status women, in the hope that they'll they'll get a bit of leg over from them. Is that really? I mean, I suppose, but in a sense, wanting leg over is a natural human instinct. It's not just human. I mean, every living creature on Earth, from bacteria to giant trees, giant sequoia trees, has a sex drive. It's because we need to reproduce. So I don't see why wanting that is wrong. It's part of our biology. It's only feminists who believe, who are in a sense nature deniers, saying that white heterosexual men should not have these natural urges. And the only good white heterosexual man is a man who does not have these urges, which is no man. I mean, even eunuchs and Vestal virgins maintain their natural biology. So a white knight is really just doing what, in a sense, it is a strategy that a low-status man might use to try and get a higher status woman than he'd normally have. So I suppose that's fair enough. And the term orbiter also means really the same thing as a white knight, a guy who hangs around with nice-looking ladies and be friends in the hope that he might get to become a brief lookout from them. Nice guy. Now, goodness me. I've done an entire video on nice guys, and perhaps I look back on it now and think I was probably being a little bit over-optimistic, giving a bit of false reassurance to... What was that? Oh, somebody just jumped in the water. Giving a bit of... Because I think I wasn't being completely dishonest with this guy, Eric, who's this young guy who wrote to me. I think he's young. I mean, he acted like he's young. But I'm maybe giving him some false reassurance, rather like these old ladies at work do, you know. Yeah, you'll find someone one day. I should have just been honest and said, look, you are quite likely to find somebody one day who will be suitable for you. It's not guaranteed. It's possible you won't. And a nice guy is what it says. It's a man who has tenderness, respect, and sincerity, and he doesn't, in a sense, disguise his motives. He's open, completely open, an open book, wears his heart on his sleeve, etc., etc. And to go into details about that would need an entire video. But do watch. I'll put a link in the description box to my letters, my exchange of letters with Eric, because it was. I hoped I helped him out, but maybe I should have been a bit more brutal with him, perhaps, but I wasn't. But what I said is not strictly untrue. Negging or nexting. Now this is interesting. Negging or nexting is where it's a PUA tactic. Like if you're with a woman you like, if you're going to neg or next, if you're going to neg or next her, which it means negging or to neg or net to next means to treat her badly, in a sense to make her, in a sense, it's a kind of like it's a term of accelerationism to try and make her more interested in you, and it's a horrible idea actually, and I really dislike it. It's something I find disgusting. I can't do that. I just can't be like this. I can't put on this kind of mask when I'm with somebody else. I can't. It's not in my nature. Which is why that's out of the question as far as I'm concerned. Totally out of the question. But it's not. Now, you may have heard of the shit test. Now, a shit test is something, Molyneux talks about this, is where a woman will, in a sense, it's a very minor piece of negging against a man she's already in a relationship with. She will neg him slightly to see if he'll stand up to her, to see how gutsy he is, essentially. Now, I've noticed that does happen, but it's not the same as negging. It's not. Negging is far more extreme than that. The plantation, and for MGTOW, the plantation, of course, a plantation is a place where, it refers to old plantations where slaves used to work. It's basically where you're living as a slave to women. So you're on the women's plantation, you're like a man, you're like a Negro in chains who's picking cotton. You know, they're comparing you to a slave of the old days, and with the same status, the same rights, the same misery. And I think again that is a very dark. That's a very bitter vision. One-itis. Now, one-itis is a weird... I've heard Molyneux's use that term, one-itis. It means being attracted... It means essentially falling in love with one woman and wanting no other woman but her. Well, that's kind of like what I was like when I was with Sue Estate. In fact, I don't see how you can actually be in a successful long-term relationship unless you have one-itis for the person you're with, whether you're a man or a woman. But the MGTOWs look upon this with disdain, and they say the solution for one-itis is called GFTOW. Again, this is obscene. This is really obscene. But GFTOW stands for go fuck 10 other women. So in other words, if you fall out, just go out and get laid, have a lot of casual sex, and then you will feel better about yourself, and you'll get over the person who you were in love with and thought that she was the one for you, hence one-itis. PUA, pickup artists are horrible people mostly. They believe that to secure a relationship or even casual sex, you have to lie and you have to trick, you have to essentially be some kind of... You have to be some kind of cheater. You have to cheat women into your bed. And there's all kinds of very extreme POs. I mean, the most infamous of these is Roosh V, who I would not allow near my daughter, put it that way. He said some truly disgusting things. And he's hated by the feminists, but I mean, this is one place where I'm agreeing with the feminists. He is a horrible little drip. I mean, he's written these books called Bang Denmark, Bang Poland, Bang France, which are basically a story of his sexual conquests in various countries he visits. And they're awful. I mean, he talks about, like, all kinds of tricks for saying, you know, like when if a woman says no to you first, he says just say okay, and then buy her a couple more drinks, and then she'll say yes. It's bordering on a rape apology. It really is, what the things he talks about, and that's why I wouldn't allow him near my daughter. I really wouldn't. I would forcibly keep him away from my daughter. I do actually wonder if he really is as irresistible as he claims to be. If you look at Roosh V, listening to him talking, and you look at his videos, he's this rather dishevelled individual with a big black hair, greasy black hair and a big scruffy grey beard. He's sort of hunched over, he has a sort of hunchback like that, and very thin, weedy arms. He has a kind of like he has a sort of very, rather high-pitched nasal voice. And I do wonder actually exactly if he really has been as successful with the opposite sex as he claims he has been, or whether he's making the whole thing up. Wall. Now, a wall is hitting the wall. I mean, this is outside the manosphere. You hear this outside MGTOW. You hear this thing. Hitting the wall is where a woman reaches a point where she's no longer physically attractive. And for MGTOWs, that's usually in their late 20s or early 30s. As I said, I think that's nonsense. That is absolute nonsense. But I mean, a lot of women think this, and women tend to have, like I say, women are far more acutely aware of, say, physical appearance, and they tend to be more competitive over physical appearance amongst themselves. So that they fear hitting the wall, which is when they believe they'll reach an age where they no longer feel they'll be attractive. It's like that awful bloody... There was this really ghastly book that was made into a TV series, but I think it was by Faye Weldon, famous feminist writer, The Life and Loves of a She-Devil. It was about this rather frumpy woman who discovers she has malevolent magical powers. And there's that famous line in it, how do ugly women survive? Ugly women survive by being tough and waiting for the day when age will make us all equal. And I thought, that's just so dismal. It's just so horrible. It's just... And finally, the wizard. Now, a wizard is a man who is still a virgin at the age of 30, according to MGTOWs. A man who reaches the age of 30 has not had sex is a wizard. Now, this is sometimes used as a compliment and sometimes used as a derogatory statement. A wizard could be seen as, there's something wrong with him because he can't get a girl. It's different from the Omega, though. It's almost like it's a choice he made, or it's like a lifestyle he's chosen. On the other hand, he could be seen as like the ultimate MGTOW monk. A MGTOW monk is a voluntary celibate man. have to call for incels at some point. What have I got about incels? Because I'm going to have to. I think I'm going to have to carry this on. Yeah. Yeah. You know what? Oh, this video is going to be longer than I thought. I think I'm going to have to carry it on later on. I think I'll have to carry it on another time. So I'll call it a day for now because I'm getting tired basically, and it's getting late. I need to go home and have my tea, which I cook for myself and I make for myself because I don't have a nice wifey to do it for me. Not that I want that. Funnily enough, when I was with Sue Estate, I did most of the cooking. I used to do fry-ups and things for her. I'm getting melancholy again. Time to call it a day. See you later, guys. Oh, God, right, where was I? I was going to do this tomorrow morning, but I thought, what the hell, I don't want to really dwell on this subject. So I was going to do this sort of like lunchtime at work or something, or after work, or tomorrow morning before work, but it's just a bit dismal. I don't want to do that. So, yeah, another thing is, I've got a feeling I'm going to be very busy with Brexit in the next, well, basically from Super Saturday onwards, I'm going to be probably endlessly making videos and live streams and things about Brexit. So, again, that's another reason why I want to get this edited and uploaded. So it's now about 6 PM and I've come out to do a bit of filming in a little patch of parkland near where I live, and basically get this subject over with. So we were talking about walls, wizards, nice guys, PUAs and things like that. I just got the PUA thing. Yeah, I was telling you about Roosh V and about negging and all this sort of thing. Oh, where did I get to? I can't remember. I haven't looked back over what I've been filming over the last couple of hours when I did it before. My videos always tend to be longer than I think they're going to be. I am reading from notes, you may have noticed, but as I said, I don't want to really go on about this. I think I got to the wizard, didn't I? I'd explain what a wizard was, like a man over 30 who hadn't had sex. And there's almost like kind of admiration in the MGTOW community for that kind of man. There's not many people around. There's a couple of joggers gone past, so if you hear me change the subject again, I'll be doing the same thing. Yeah, one-itis, the plantations. Catfish man. Yeah, I'll get onto catfishing. Now, you may not. I don't know if you're familiar with catfishing. This is where someone joins a dating site with a fake profile, and I don't know what it's called, catfishing. I think it's something to do with the way catfish have bait and things like that, and they lure things in. There's this guy who was this guy caused a bit of a sensation, a bit of a scandal on social media a few years ago, because he was called Catfish Man, and he was MRA stroke MGTOW who decided to deliberately set up fake profiles of himself as an alpha male. So he himself, obviously he's sort of overweight and frumpy and he's not sort of like he's probably low on the conventional scale of attractiveness. So he decided to set up a fake account, and with choosing a very, very handsome man as his profile picture. So he had pictures of very handsome men in the profile, pretending it was him, and he called himself, gave himself a fake name. I was going to say Derek Duval. I always remember that there's an episode of Only Fools and Horses, that brilliant British comedy series. There's an absolutely fantastic episode. It's one where Delroy first meets Raquel, the woman he eventually falls in love with. But he begins by catfishing her. He calls himself Derek Duval at a dating agency. He pretends to be a millionaire. This is what this catfish man did. He pretended to be like a doctor or an airline pilot or a businessman or something high profile, and this incredibly handsome visage, and and of course then he'd arrange dates with women. Then he would turn up and film them, really like as if he'd go around to them accusing them, saying, "You're expecting to meet this person, well this person's really me," in a really nasty way, almost like, I don't know if you've seen those paedophile hunters on YouTube. I quite like watching them, where they track down, they put up fake accounts of children
entrap paedophiles and call the police and things like that on them. But first of all, they film them and humiliate them and things like that. And I quite like that because, of course, these are people who deserve it. But this guy would treat these women the same way, who'd arrange dates with this fake profile of hers. And he'd approach them in a really accusing manner with a camera and saying, "You're expecting to meet Mr. Charming. Well, this is me, really, and you're a slut," and things like this, and "You're a Stacey." And to myself, I mean, why? What are these women doing wrong? I mean, they're not doing anything reprehensible by arranging a date with someone with conventional attractiveness. I mean, some women do like men who are conventionally attractive. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not a crime. There's even some women who are gold diggers, and as long as they're open about their motives, I don't see the problem with that. I mean, if I was a rich millionaire, I'd say, "Look, are you dating me for your money?" And if she said yes, I'd say, "Well, thanks for being honest." I wouldn't say, "You bitch," you know. So Catfish Man is an example, and it's rather like I was saying with Rebecca Watson and Laurie Penny. You know, it's an example of why, I do. Some women who describe themselves as feminists, I do feel sympathy for. I really do. And from their point of view, obviously I'm against them. I oppose them. But from their point of view, I understand why they're feminists. When white heterosexual men start behaving the way feminists think they're going to behave, or suspect they're behaving, and our own behaviour confirms their prejudices, then what do you expect them to do? People like Catfish Man create feminists for life. Rebecca Watson is going to be a feminist for the rest of her life now because of idiots like that. And there is this is what I sense within a lot of the MGTOW movement. There's a massive amount of bitterness, nihilism. As Coach Red Pill put in one of his videos, these people are more dangerous than terrorists, because at least terrorists believe in something positive. These men believe in nothing. These men are people who do things like Catfish Man. Not all MGTOWs, hashtag, but people who do things like Catfish Man are literally on a campaign of mindless destruction. It's like the people who have wild parties before, they say, "Oh, before the bomb drops, I'm just going to have a wild party and get drunk and go around going crazy, because why not?" It's that kind of nihilistic explosion of destruction. There's been several people who've committed crimes, such as, Elliot Rodger appears to be some kind of MGTOW or MRA. If that was real, I know some people say that's not real. I'm not sure. Oh, I lost a friend. I say friend. This woman who was a feminist who I'd been friendly with, she blocked me over that. It's quite funny. She was someone who turned up at Probe once, and I didn't really date her, but I met up a couple of times. She blocked me. I don't mind that. But I have I think not all MGTOWs. I can understand. As I say, I can sympathise with them. I remember when I was a porter, and I kind of gave up on finding a partner at one point. This is just before I met Sue Estain, oddly enough. But I remember going out the usual 2 to 10 shift nightclub route. So you'd finish 2 to 10. The guys who were in staff accommodation would nip back to their quarters and get changed. I'd either pack my clothes to change out my uniform, or I'd nip home by taxi or something. And we'd head downtown. Post 2 to 10 Friday night. The D shift was on the town. That kind of thing. And I used to flirt, and I used to dance with girls and things like that. And when I actually made the decision once, I'm going to go out and I'm not going to go on the pool tonight, it was extraordinarily liberating. And this is where I do understand where the MGTOWs are coming from. The decision, to make that decision and say, I'm not going to put myself through this ordeal, which is... It's hard work. Dating is a horrible thing, and attempted dating and flirting and things like that. And it is, pick-up culture. It's a horrible thing. You have to go through some terrible ordeals
to achieve what you're looking for. You know, you have a million horrible bee stings to get to before you get to the honey. And that's what it was like. And when I decided I'm not going to go on the pool tonight, I'm just going to have a drink, enjoy my time with my brother porters, and that'll be it. And, the relief I felt was so intense, I can't describe it. It's one of the most incredible sense of liberation I've ever had in my life, bar none. It was almost I felt like, because I was watching all the others, you know, going around and saying stupid things while they were drunk, you know, dribbling down their chins as guys do when we're drunk, to these other girls who were equally drunk. I mean, it's awful. I mean, how many people ever form a long-term relationship after meeting someone in a place like that, one of these urban nightclubs? Everyone's drunk, everyone's doled up to the nines, everyone's not in their real life. And I just walk through there and think, I'm not going to try and pick up any women. I'm going to just enjoy myself without that. It was like the relief and invulnerability I felt. It was like, you know, it's like strolling. It's like being kind of like invisible and strolling through a battlefield, and no one can see you. And it's the bullets and bombs are, you know, like being an angel or a ghost or something, just wandering through a battlefield, and the bullets and the bombs are flying everywhere, and I'm just sort of strolling around like that. It's not affecting me. It was that sense of invulnerability. That's how it felt. And when I felt that, I mean, thinking back to that, I understand why some MGTOWs actually become MGTOWs. I really do, because it is such a blissful release to get to just give in and stop trying in this horrible business. It's a sweet sense of freedom. It really is. So as I said, I've not had any. You know, I'm not really looking for a date. Really, as I said, it's really, really difficult, and I'm sort of like just not caring at the moment. I mean, there's all. The thing is that when the MGTOWs, I don't want to go into too much details about this, but the MGTOWs give men advice on how to deal with sexual frustration. That is, you're not getting any sex, and of course that's, for most guys, that is a difficult thing to deal with, and I'm one of them. But they give you advice on how to deal with that, and I won't go into too much detail because some of it's a bit sordid and it's personal, but it's sound advice. It is sound advice. Now, there's another similarity, a rather sad similarity between the MGTOWs and feminists. Both MGTOWs and feminists discourage men from being fathers, and for different reasons, but the effects are the same. MGTOWs, thing is, it's almost as an obvious result of being a MGTOW, you're not going to have children. You're not going to, because to have children means you have to pair bond with a woman. You have to get into that relationship, to get onto the plantation, to use their rather unfair terminology, and you have to do that. And I have a daughter who's now 24 years old, and would I not want her to be here? You know, because if I'd chosen to be a MGTOW before she was born, before I'd met the woman I ended up having her with, who was a horrible, horrible person. I was in a relationship with her for 3 years, and she was awful. But to change my mind on that, or to regret that, means regretting my daughter had ever been born. So, MGTOWs they're turning away from even the possibility of the joy of becoming a father. And feminists, of course, they say this, they also don't want men to be fathers for different reasons. They say, feminists vary in their hostility to fathers, but the general feeling is fathers are at best unnecessary in bringing up a child, which is utterly false. At worst, they say fathers should be hanged, fathers should be prevented from seeing their children, fathers just don't exist, they're a non-thing, they're just a sperm donor. It goes with various levels of hostility and dismissiveness that feminists have towards fatherhood. The MGTOWs, of course, they are not like that, but they just say, well, guys, don't. Feminists say men shouldn't be fathers. Feminists say men don't be fathers. There's not really any. The effect is not really very much that different, although obviously the motivation is, and the effect, the motivation and the reasoning is different. The motivation, so that's the difference. But again, it's another strange similarity between MGTOW and feminism. There's a video by Happy Humble Hermit where he talks about the things feminists lose. I must say, I feel sorry for Triple H, I really do, because I don't think he's a bad guy. He's very young for a MGTOW, he's 23. MGTOW's usually older. They're usually men who have been in relationships, long-term relationships. He hasn't had a serious girlfriend yet. And he discovered MGTOW and decided to go into MGTOW at a very young age. He said he was literally 19 years old when he became a MGTOW. He's been doing his channel for a couple of years. But Triple H did a video called What You Lose by Being a MGTOW. And funnily enough, it didn't mention fatherhood, but it mentioned romanticism and idealism, the depth of romanticism. So you give up on the possibility of ever falling in love with a woman. That's what you give up. And they say it's an illusion anyway. They say it doesn't exist. They say it is a falsehood, essentially. It's a lie invented by, well, I was going to say, it's not invented by feminism, because they don't just blame feminism, they blame female inherent nature. But it's simply a lie that you'll never find your unicorn, to use their terminology. AWOLT, you'll never find your unicorn. And that's incredibly sad. I mean, I can understand that I think is a source of red pill rage, as they call it. And I really think to myself, well, is it justified? Do you? I mean, I'm dressing as single guys here. Are you going to give up on any possibility ever of falling in love with a woman, having her fall in love with you? Because I gave up, and that's when I met Sue Stain, and we fell in love. And I considered her my unicorn, and she was, to use their terminology. She was the real unicorn. She was the love of my life, and maybe she will always be the love of my life, because I'll never find another. I'm ready for that possibility. I'm ready to accept that possibility. In which case, at least I had Sue. It's better to have loved and to have lost than to have never loved at all. That is a really old cliche, but it's so true. Even that, I first heard that in Charlie Brown. Do you know Charlie? I really identified with Charlie Brown, because he was saying, "Oh, I want to go talk to the little red-haired girl," and he never got his little red-haired girl. But he was like a bit of a cult failure, was Charlie Brown. But I just loved him so much, because he was pre-teen, but he had a lot of teenage angst in him. Brilliant. So when I get to so for some reason I've made a note of one of Triple H's videos. Triple H put up a video called "The 10 Worst Traits of Female Nature," and for some reason I've written this down. Hang on, whatever. Did I mention the hamster wheel? No, I didn't. All right, good. Because I couldn't remember earlier on if I mentioned the hamster wheel. I think I might have done, but even though I'll mention it again. Denial of the wall. That means women who don't think. This is number 10. No, this is women who are not worried about hitting the wall. That is becoming older and less attractive. Now, I know a lot of women do fear that. I quoted from that horrible, very pessimistic quote from Faye Weldon's "The Life and Loves of a She-Devil" earlier on. That is a distinct awareness of the wall, told from a woman who considers herself unattractive, but it's just waiting for the day when all women will be unattractive anyway. So she'll be equal with them all, which is sad. It's a very sad way to feel about oneself. And and as I said, there are lots of women who are less attractive, who do not have conventional attractiveness, who are very alluring, as I said. And that attraction is a very complicated thing, and it doesn't necessarily flow in the direction where convention tells you it must flow. It's not a secret, it's not a secret or even particularly controversial that there are plenty of men who are not terribly good looking, but who are very, very sought after by women. I mean, the obvious is Trump, of course. Well, of course, he was a multi-millionaire, now he's president. But there was a porter in my hospital who was a bit like that. He was this guy who seemed to be irresistible. But he was he was actually a heavy drinker, like a lot of hospital porters, and he was a rather old. He was an aging, overweight, tattooed, lush, basically, with patchy hair. And I thought to myself, how does he do it? And I mean, look at Wyn Keach. I mean, Wyn Keach is. He is what the MGTOW's called a slayer. We're not talking here about the death metal band, or whatever kind of metal band they are. Slaxer, correct me. Tell me what sort of band they are. A slayer is like an alpha Chad who just continuously sleeps around, just has a multitude of one-night stands and continuous bits on the side. Now, I'm not saying Wyn Keach does that, but Wyn Keach is he's hot. He's very high on the sexual market value. He's hot property. A lot of women like him. I know he's had several girlfriends, and he basically, from what I hear, if one goes away, there's another in the queue. That's what I've heard. You look at him. He looks a bit like Danny DeVito. He's just kind of he's rather short, sort of like rotund kind of guy with bald, long black hair, things like that. He's a likable he's a nice guy as well. I think he is. I mean, I don't know whether he's a nice guy in the sense that I'm talking about here, but there are still joggers going past. But he's a very he is a very he's generally regarded as very attractive, but he's short, sort of rotund kind of guy. Rationalise the hamster wheel. Now, the hamster wheel refers to a supposed woman's ability to go into cognitive dissonance about things that she does. In other words, to excuse herself for her own evil. It refers to a hamster wheel going around inside her head, rationalising everything she does. I didn't quite understand that. Hubris. That is the idea that they are overconfident about certain things, like that they don't need men and things like this. And actually, that is another similarity between the hubris that women feel, and feminists in particular feel. If it is indeed hubris, that is, it may be misplaced or maybe not. But I know that there's so many feminists who will say things like, I don't need a man to complete my life. I'm a strong, independent, confident woman. And of course, other feminists will cheer them on. I mean, that's considered very prestigious. It's a great thing to be. But MGTOWs are essentially doing the same thing, and they're condemned by the feminists. So that is a double standard. But also, it's a double standard. Of course, feminism is loaded with double standards, isn't it? But it is also a similarity between feminism and MGTOW, but in one way that they're the same. Number 7, dehumanisation. That is making people disposable. I mean, one of the complaints that the MRA community has is that women are conditioned to treat men as disposable items they can just use for a while and then cast aside. And according to Triple H, all women, AWOLT, all women are like that. Women are essentially materialistic psychopaths who people are just there to be used. He used the word solipsistic, narcissistic. He used a lot of words like this, and when he says women, AWOLT means half the people in the world are like this. Now, obviously, that's an enormous, that's a very serious matter to make a claim like that against so many people, and I reject it. The same goes for number 6, emotional manipulation, mind games. Well, you know, yes, women can do that. I mean, the point he's trying to make is that, yeah, women do that. I mean, women are physically weaker than men. In a sense, it's almost like something they made up for. I mean, Stefan Molyneux claims that. But again, it's an idea that somehow you can apply that to half the people in the entire world. When I've known women who don't do that. Sue Stain never did that to me. Never. I know some women do it. My mother did. I've had partners who've done that. But the thing, it's but I know that, but men can do that as well. Men can do that as well. And Triple H actually admits that in the video, but he says that men hardly ever do it. Which again, you're talking about half the people in the entire world. I remember he is an AWOLT, so he doesn't distinguish between individual women. The point he may be getting at is a valid one, though. The point is that there is another double standard, which is probably one of the feminism's greatest conquests within the mainstream, and that is denial of female evil. And Stefan Molyneux, one of the things Stefan Molyneux and I think several other people in the IDW were saying about the film Joker, which I touched on in my review of Joker, was they brought this up. They said that, and I think it's quite unfair really regarding the character of Arthur's mother, but Molyneux was saying that we can see the results of female evil, but we're not allowed to talk about the cause, which is the woman who's evil. Molyneux, of course, was emotionally and physically abused by his mother, and he's talked a lot about that. He's now defooed his mother, to use his words. In other words, he's disowned her. He wants nothing to do with her. And indeed, I myself was emotionally abused by my mother, and psychologically abused to a great extent, and indeed was physically abused by people who she brought in almost as proxies to abuse me. She brought into the family to abuse me. So I think what this is about is about this the fact that society generally is encouraged to look away from that. Instead, we're told to think that if anything goes wrong with a man, it has to be men who do it. It has to be white men specifically who have to be to blame. And that boys, because they grow up, they start off as boys, and boys are snugs and slugs and snails and puppy dog's tails. Girls are sugar and spice and all things nice. The fact of the matter is, women can be evil as often and as to the same severity that men can. They express it in different ways. They're very often less physically violent, but they can be horrible in other ways. Monkey branching hypergamy, that's number 5, we've already talked about that. Number 4 is lack of loyalty. Again, that's kind of going into the dehumanism and humanisation and side of things, and hypergamy. But she talks about lack of, they say women will never be nationalists, women will never stand up for their country and their people. And he cites examples of how women just, when women are conquered by the Vikings or something, when a village is conquered by the Vikings and all the men are dead or they're put into slave camps or something, the women just become the concubines of the Vikings and things like that, quite willingly, which is simply false. I mean, I don't think that's fair, because in the situation where a load of guys with big axes come at you, you don't have much choice. It's either that or they'll take the axe to your neck. I don't think Triple H has thought of that. And again, so he doesn't provide any evidence for this idea that women suffer from a lack of loyalty more than men do, or lack of lack of patriotism more than men do. I don't think that's the case. Or sort of loyalty to the tribe, so to speak. Cognitive dissonance is number 3. That's the same really as hubris and the other things we talked about. 2, no moral compass, no principles. Again, that's like lack of loyalty. It's, again, who are we applying this to? I do, from my own experience, I do have to wonder, you know, what kind of compass was Sue Stain following when she abandoned me for this ridiculous, you know, this ridiculous, pathetic little individual who stole everything, who ruined her life, who stole everything she had, who she was with for 2 weeks. The 2 weeks was all that, basically, the reason it was 2 weeks is that's how long it took him to rob her of everything she owned. And they just abandoned her. What kind of moral compass was she following? I mean, what did she think she would gain from this? I mean, what? Do you see what I mean? And number one is selfishness, which is, again, is unfair. So, MGTOWs are inverted feminists. I think that's one thing I've learned from studying the MGTOW movement. They are incredibly similar to feminists. But they're inverted. It's just reversing the sexes. Am I a MGTOW? No. No. This does not mean that I am desperate to get into another relationship. I'm not. I sometimes think that it probably may not be a good idea right now anyway, because frankly I've got too much else to do. And I wouldn't want to inflict because if I was in any relationship, it would be maybe a lack of attention on my partner, because I'd be too busy doing other things. It wouldn't be fair on her. I wouldn't blame her if she dumped me for that. So I'm not a MGTOW. However, my view of the MGTOW movement has changed in the last few months, and I have begun to understand where some of them are coming from, because MGTOWs are not all the same. Some of them are different. I think some of them are bitter, nihilistic, destructive individuals, exactly like, you know, people like Micah Media said they were. He calls them whiny little bitches, and some of them are. But others do see it as something positive. In fact, I was getting into discussions with people in the chat box, which is what inspired me to make this video, because they were criticising me because I said that MGTOW was an incredibly negative and nihilistic thing, and they were saying no, it's not. It's a positive thing. It's a positive and progressive plan for your life. It's a strategy for your entire life, which actually guys get into for creative reasons, not destructive. And I've got to say, that's true. For some men it is. Some of MGTOW really resonates. It does. And something's got to be done about the world where it's something. I don't think MGTOW is the answer to the problems of the world we're in, because MGTOW doesn't address the causes. It doesn't. Firstly, this idea of inherent female nature is unfair, as well as false. It's unfair and false. How am I doing? I have the battery. I charged the battery up a little bit. I topped it up before I came out. But their criticism of feminism is completely valid, and we are now in full feminism at the moment. I mean, the Booker Prize has just happened. I was keen to look at this because, being a writer, you know, I was keen to look at this. The Booker Prize has just occurred, and I'm a bit concerned about the results. It could be my concerns are ungrounded, but of all the people who have even shortlisted, there was only one man. That was Salman Rushdie. There's no white men at all. All the others were women. The winner was shared between two women. One was Margaret Atwood, and the other was someone I can't remember, a black woman. I don't know her name, but it says she's the first non-white winner of the Booker Prize. That's been all over the BBC. Now, it could be my concerns are unfounded here, which means that there was no particular decision on the behalf of the Booker Committee to favour, in other words, carry out positive discrimination for non-WHM people, and therefore, of course, excluding or disadvantaging WHM writers, authors. I don't know if that's the case. If it's not the case, then these people won the award fair and square. and I don't have a problem with it. But if there is, then we do have a problem. We do have a problem there, because in a sense this goes back to the social engineering which is inherent in cultural Marxism. It really is. I mean, I've not read Margaret Atwood. I was talking about Margaret Atwood when I was buying Douglas Murray's book, and I can't help wondering, because people have been getting at me to read it, because they say, oh, it's like George Orwell's 1984. You'll really like it, Ben. It's about like the Illuminati and stuff like that. And I just looked at the plot synopsis, and I looked at what people have said about it, and I just think to myself, I can't help feeling a bit cynical. I mean, this lady, Margaret Atwood, she's incredibly successful. Her books are bestsellers. She's won the Booker Prize now, and I just can't help thinking, she shared it. I mean, it's almost like they wanted to share it between her. They couldn't bear not to give it to her, but also turn down this black woman who's written another book. But I can't help thinking, she gets up one morning and says, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book about how white, heterosexual Christian men are evil. Oh, will it be a success, I wonder? Will it be a success? You know, I mean, I made this point when I reviewed the film Get Out. You know, the Get Out film dismayed me, because it was I sensed that the filmmakers were aware of their own lack of talent, and the fact they brought in this particular plot element because they wanted to, in a sense, bulletproof it from any criticism, and also morally blackmail distributors and critics and other people into assisting it becoming a success. And I can't help wondering if Margaret Atwood's done the same. Don't know, but can't help wondering. I don't think I'll ever become a MGTOW, because I don't believe in the inherent nature of, evil nature of womanhood. I don't believe that. I've known plenty of women. I've got a daughter, for example, who's totally different from my mother. They couldn't be more different people. They're both women. You've thought of other examples, haven't you? We're talking about half the people in the world here. And the idea that you should, of course, what the MGTOWs might have identified is, yes, it's more difficult to form a loving relationship with a woman now, because of social pressures by the mind manipulators being put on both men and women to drive us apart from each other. But MGTOW is a form of surrender. MGTOW is a form of what the hell? If they're going to do that, I'm just going to go along with it. And instead, there's no real solution to the problem. The solution for them, and I know some of you see it as positive, you guys who are MGTOWs who watch, the solution for them is to accept the situation, accept the fact that there is this mind control, we're being subjected to this cultural Marxist psychological warfare attack, which all people are subjected to, teaching us to hate each other or hate ourselves, depending on who we are. In my case, as a white straight male, hating myself. For other people who have different demographics, hating me. Either way, I mean, I can't work out which is worse, to be honest. Both are awful but both are terrible emotions to feel. And it drives us apart from each other. It breaks up families, as I said earlier. It turns daughters away from fathers. It turns mothers to reject their sons. It turns wives to reject their husbands. Husbands to hate themselves. Loving husbands, men who have loved women, to believe that they are rapists. Encouraging white people who have never harmed a non-white person in their life, and have friends and have even partners and lovers who are non-white, encouraging white people to believe they are actually slave owners. It's horrific. And what there was colonizers, that's another word. Colonizers, slave owners, etc., etc. It is utterly horrific. This ties into the points I made in my Douglas Murray book. I might even put a link in the description box to that. This horrific mind control has to stop it. And MGTOWs really, they are, and I don't think they're contributing to it as the way feminists are, but they are stopping people finding the solution. I'm not as anti-MGTOW as I used to be. I sympathise with them. I think I understand why they do what they do. I understand why they get into what they get into. Whether it's the MGTOW monks or the pick-up artists or the various other kinds of MGTOW, the guys who go into monk mode and then go into plate spinning mode, they call it, which is like their own kind of like where they go crazy and start like screwing around. I think I sympathise with them. I do. Especially since I split up with Sue Stain. But I will never be one of them. Because it's not helping. It's not helping stop this mind control. Most of them don't even actually understand that it's nothing to do with the inherent nature of women. Which AWOL, all women are like that. It's not the case. In a healthy society, women would not be like that. And men would not be like we've been programmed to be. So that's why I'm not a MGTOW. That's not why I don't think it helps at all. They are essentially they're reactionaries. It's a community that's built over people who are upset at the situation, but they're mindless reactionaries. There's no analysis, there's no attempt to solve the problem other than separating yourself completely from women. Despite what I've said, I would say to anybody, don't give up on the possibility of finding a loving relationship with a woman, because it really is one of the most joyful experiences a man can have. Or indeed, or if you're gay, with another man, or if you're a lesbian with another woman. I mean, don't give up on having a loving relationship, whatever that might be, because it is literally, it's something I can't describe. You just want to jump for joy. You want to just look at the other person all day long and just look into their eyes and just sit with them, put your arm around them, and that's how I felt like with Sue. I'll never forget that. It's over and I lost, but at least I loved. At least I loved and was loved. It's the only time in my life that's ever happened. I mean, Louisa's mother was an awful woman. The only reason I'm still sort of like having anything to do with her is because I need to talk to her about Louisa sometimes, and we both deal with Louisa. That's my daughter. But I have loved, and I wouldn't give up that for the world. Despite everything, I'd go through it again. So please don't give up on that. Don't give up on that possibility. I understand you can do everything else with you do with MGTOW, that is going into monk mode, writing these things about male self-improvement and things like that. You can do all those things. Those are positive things. But if you completely shut the door on women, you shut the door on life. You shut the door on ever having your own family, ever being a father, ever being with a woman to create new life. And that is exactly what the Illuminati want us to do. I think the Illuminati are as happy when men become MGTOWs as they are when women become feminists. Don't give them that satisfaction. Thanks for watching Hapanwo TV. Hospital Porters, Pride and Dignity. Stop the New World Order.